Good afternoon, Wrestling Inc. Welcome back to the Wrestling Inc. podcast, or Wrestling Inc. Daily. Wow, I said Wrestling Inc. podcast. Sorry, I had my run sheet here wrong. I'm just such a victim of habit. Hey, it's me, your Wrestling Inc. managing editor, Nick Hausman, joined here today on Friday to have some fun, to talk to pro wrestling news the past 24 hours with our good friend, TK Trinidad. TK, welcome back to the Wrestling Inc. Daily.
¿Qué pasa? How are you doing?
I'm good. It's really rainy here in Chicago, and I've spent the last hour working and listening to the Counting Crows as I work. That's the mood I'm in right now, TK.
All right. Yeah, it rained yesterday in Los Angeles, and everybody just lost their mind. I'm from Toronto, so it's like, okay, rain, whatever. But everybody lost their mind here in Los Angeles, where it's just like, oh my God, it's raining, and it's literally just like specks. And I also went to school in Oregon, so I'm very used to rain. I'm just like, okay, we're not melting. It's fine, but
Sure.
C'est la vie.
Yeah, well, hey, this isn't a weather show. If you want that, go check out the Weather Channel. They got
that part.
Insane graphics over there. What a ride the Weather Channel is these days. No, we got a great show here. A lot of big news the past 24 hours to talk about. After the news block, if you're listening to us in audio form, you're going to get to hear my conversation with Matt Taven. Matt is, of course, going to be putting the ROH tag titles on the line tomorrow night against the Briscoes in what is it at least the last show of this era of Ring of Honor, and knock on wood, there will be more, but this is it for the time being. Matt was the guy 3 years ago, climbed that ladder, won the title at Madison Square Garden, and was really poised for a run there. And this whole pandemic thing, man, I can't think of anybody who's been through the emotional blender maybe more than Matt Taven through this thing. So I love Matt. I'm very happy he took the time to talk with me. I think you're all really going to enjoy this conversation. At the end of the show, after we hear from Matt, we're going to do some Ring of Honor talk to wrap it up. We'll talk a little bit about Final Battle. We'll talk about the history of ROH, that kind of deal. And, if you are watching the show here live, you can jump into the comments section. We'll pull some of your comments up onto the screen like this. The Hot Tag Wrestling Podcast. Love seeing TK and hearing her great takes on topics. That's an awesome, positive way to start the show, TK.
I agree. Thank you. And it's going to be every Friday, I think. Every Friday we're doing this, right? That's what.
Yeah, that's the plan now. TK, TK is in every Friday now. I should put out a tweet or something about that, because it was weird because you weren't here last week.
Yeah.
This is the start of the run. You'll be here next week, but then we're taking Christmas week off. So we're really, I think, TK, going to find our stride in the new year. That's what I'm hoping for on Fridays,
Yes, of course. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
We already got the groove going here. You're so good with the hot takes, TK. Let's get to some here. News you can use, news that'll leave a bruise. It is a big day for two men. Johnny Gargano, Kyle O'Reilly, both now free agents. Fightful saying Gargano free to work anywhere he wants. PW Insider saying the same goes for Kyle O'Reilly as well. Now, with Gargano back with Fightful, there's going to be no non-compete. While WWE wanted Gargano to stay, his departure is said to be incredibly amicable. Door is left open by both sides to work together in. People within WWE have influence, still hopeful he'll come back. The Observer saying that he is expected to wait until the birth of his child to see what he wants to do next. But PW Insider saying, yes, both these men were removed from the internal calendars and schedules today. All right, your thoughts on these two men becoming free agents, TK?
I mean, kudos to them for being able to do it on their own terms, because we've already seen, the last, 7-8 times WWE just releases people and people are just like flabbergasted. Like, I didn't even know I was on the chopping block. So kudos to them for timing it out, and then also making themselves knowing what their worth is and timing it with WWE, and then knowing okay, well, I can go and I will. I don't really need you. So kudos to them. And I'm pretty sure both guys have a game plan. Gargano, he's been on the indie circuit before, even, he touched WWE. So I'm sure he had friends and people in other promotions. So I'm sure he has a game plan. He knows exactly what he's going to do. But I love the fact that which he has the ability to do. The birth of his child is coming, and he can take some time out, which a lot of families, in particular in America, can't really do, especially fathers with certain companies. So kudos to him. I really appreciate that, because I don't have kids, but they're a lot of work. So
Yeah.
Candace needs some help.
I have a dog. That's enough for me, at least for now. And
well, you know what? I'm trying to get a dog too, so I know. Like I'm getting anxiety over just planning for a dog. So I mean, not to compare the two, but I get it.
Real quick, I mean, we'll get back to Gargano and O'Reilly. How deep is the process? How close are you to getting your dog, TK?
I am looking, but I have a skincare line which I'm very invested in at the moment. So once Christmas is over, like the dream is to have my dog for New Year's, me, my dog, pajamas and hot chocolate, New Year's, watching Harry Potter. That's the goal.
I want that for you, TK. Okay. All right, back to Gargano. And
sorry, guys.
No, I just have a soft spot for dogs. I wanted to see that through. All right, back to Gargano and O'Reilly. I agree with everything you said, and I think the thing that you're pointing out here, that's probably the best for WWE is like the way they're handling it. Right? It's been such a strain on their roster and the fans to see people kind of getting pushed along further in contracts or held out on contracts or becoming unhappy in their position. It's very rare that we get a story like this where, I mean, I guess it's becoming more common now as people see what's on the other side of this situation, but yeah, I mean, we don't see a lot of this. It's good for them. It's good for Gargano to keep his head up. And I think that the baby stuff is great. I hope this is all true. I hope he does take some time. He's out there. He's got Vimeo, or he's got, Pro Wrestling Tees and Cameo. That's the one. So he's creating other revenue streams. Kyle O'Reilly, very different situation. I think Kyle O'Reilly could be on AEW TV like Wednesday.
Tomorrow. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Rampage is pre-taped, so it won't be tonight. Sorry, is it Friday? It's Friday. Wow, it's the end of the week.
It's Friday. Yeah. I definitely. What I meant by tomorrow, I mean like that deal is already done. Like that was people have been talking about that for months. Like it's. I would be shocked if we don't see him on AEW within the next 2 weeks.
Well,
or at least a promo or something.
Oh, for sure. I think he'll be on AEW. I think I give it a 60-40, maybe 70-30 in favor that he's on Dynamite on Wednesday. It shows up at Winter. What is it? Dead of Winter.
Winter is coming. Winter is coming. Winter is coming.
Sorry, Winter is coming. Right. I think it's a logical step. They already got Adam Cole and Bobby Fish tagging there, and you got Adam Cole there with the Super Click, which spun out of the Elite, and now he's gonna have. I mean, does he choose sides? Like, does he want to be Undisputed Era? I mean. These guys are just all going to have a lot of fun playing together, and I think Kyle O'Reilly will be there very, very soon.
Yeah, and another thing on Gargano too, I feel like he's had some good runs at NXT, but I feel like he wasn't able to get to his full potential just based off of how WWE kind of. I mean, from the rumors, I don't know this for sure, but Vince kind of. Gears to bigger guys. That's the rumor.
Sure.
And Gargano doesn't fit the mold. So I feel like he didn't get the push. Like he got more of an indie push. Like people were familiar with him from the indies. They're watching WWE because of him. And we know he's a great wrestler, but the push that he could have had, I feel they missed the mark on that. And I think that's what he's thinking too. It's like, I've done so well on the indies. People love me on the indies. Let me try somewhere else and see if I'm going to get that same love.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a rumor. I think that's probably a statistical fact. Like, if you go look at all the guys and women that made money, like, I think there's a size. There's definitely a size thing there, right? And that is the worry for Gargano. I do think, and I brought this up earlier this week, with Bryan Danielson leaving WWE, a gap does open for a Gargano. If they want to keep telling those kinds of underdog, technical wrestler, nice guy stories, maybe that's why they really wanted a Gargano. He does fit a lot of the things that Bryan was doing. So that's why I could maybe see Gargano having some value outside, other than the big guys you're talking about.
Yeah. I would have seen that 2 years ago. I feel like the direction, like if you just for the women, I don't know if they announced the men, but like the women, they announced a whole bunch of the new recruits for NXT, and they're all
Right.
former NCAA athletes. Like I feel like that's the trend that's going. They're not necessarily. I feel like they're gonna leave the indies for AEW, like the AEW to grab the indie stars, and I think WWE is trying to do. I think the last promo on NXT was like a gymnast who went to the Olympics. Like I think WWE is trying to gear towards that, which is more mainstream media that they can market and do crossovers. And I think with Gargano, that may have worked 2 years ago, but I think it for because he could still show up on main roster, like that's the the word. So if he does, I just don't know if they'll. I mean, they don't know what to do with some of the wrestlers already that they have. So I don't really have a confidence in them that they would be able to. They know what to do with Gargano, even if he does go to main roster. Not this moment.
And I think it's the lack of confidence, right? And we had Mick Foley on here on the show earlier this week, and he was talking about how Johnny and Kyle, they owe it to themselves to go out there and see what else is out there, And I read an interview with Jay Lethal earlier today where he talked about flying to, Joe Koff's house and asking for his release as soon as the hiatus was announced because he knew how difficult it was going to be part of that wave of Ring of Honor talents. Their contracts all come up at once, and then they all call Tony Khan at the same time. And so he had to go there and ask to get out of his Ring of Honor contract just so in good faith he could be ahead of everybody else starting to make those negotiations. It is both a very good time to be out on the market, but like you were talking about earlier, it's all about timing. When you go out there, when you put yourself out there, and both these guys, real good time and timing in this situation.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about Jeff Hardy. So we have a follow-up about Jeff. Now, the Observer is saying that Jeff was fully aware that if he refused help, WWE was going to have to take some kind of action. The decision was then to let Hardy go. Instead of suspending him, he was given a 90-day non-compete period where he's going to be paid until Wednesday, March 9th. And at that point, he's going to become a free agent, and he's going to be able to work wherever he wants. And TK saw a tweet that I saw as well that we felt was worth sharing with everybody here. So I'm going to screen share it. It's from our good friend, two-time WWE Hall of Famer, Sean X. Pac Wallman. Sean has obviously been through his fair share of ups and downs when it comes to substance abuse. And he writes, not every relapse is a reason to do inpatient treatment. My best recovery came many years after I did my third stint in rehab and had totally relapsed again. I came out of it on my own with the help of evidence-based treatments and a hypnotherapist. While I'm grateful for them, the rehab industry is also a huge racket. And there were other talents that jumped in, and I saw Kevin Nash agreeing with him about that. So the part about rehab being a racket, rehab does work for some people. That's Sean's opinion. But I also think there's truth in it's not for everybody. And maybe there is something else out there for Jeff right now that we're not all, again, we're not there. We're not in his world. Everybody around him seems to say he's fine and he's okay, but we don't know. Why did you want to bring that Waltman tweet up here, TK?
I feel like we, as a society, with social media and all, we're now allowed to give our opinion. It's no longer like we see it on TV and, we just talk about it amongst our friends or do a guessing game. Now we're giving all our opinions. Now we're all doctors. And, what the thing is, we truly don't know. I think I saw another article where Matt commented on, he's doing well. That's all I can say. It's not my story to tell. So, it's whenever he's ready, because we really don't know. We don't know what the story behind it is. And people do things differently. I'm really big into audiobooks. I was reading an audiobook about Cicely Tyson, and she was with Miles Davis, real old school. If you guys don't know, you should look him up. But he was a drug addict throughout his career. And what he did is he would just lock himself in the room. It's not laughable, but he would lock himself in the room and do it cold turkey. And it didn't necessarily
heard that story. I've heard that before.
Yeah, it's not, it worked for him. And you don't know the demons that everybody's dealing with. So he has to deal with it on his own. If he knows that he needs to get help, then he's going to figure it out. It seems like he has a really great support system. and I honestly believe he's gonna figure it out. But for us to guess and all this other stuff, you know, I guess we can, but we really don't know. And kudos to WWE for, just paying him out for the 90 days. So maybe in the 90 days he can figure out what he wants to do.
Well,
And no shortage of jobs. I mean, both him and his brother are legends, so it's not like he's never going to work. So I think gives him the holidays to, chill, relax, figure out what he wants to do, figure out if there is issues that need to be dealt with, and then go from there.
Yeah, and I think it's the safety of Jeff, the safety of the people around him. The only thing that makes me hesitant with him resuming action again is just the video is just so weird, TK. And like there's such a trust issue with wrestling, and if you can't get in the ring and trust who you're across the ring with right now, that becomes an issue. And I think that is probably a problem for Jeff at the moment. But I mean, back to the treatment thing. Yeah, I mean it is. Look, I smoked cigarettes for most of my 20s. And when I turned 30, I was like, you're going to die, man. Right? This is not getting better. And so I quit cold turkey too after trying a couple different things. And like, that's not how a lot of people do it. Some people never quit,
Mm-hmm.
And it's not, I'm not saying anywhere near on the level of what Jeff's saying, but yeah, you try things, but you have to realize what you're doing is bad. You have to accept that what you want it out of your life, and if that's not there, I mean, it's very difficult. The hypnotist thing from Sean, that was very. I want to talk to him more about the hypnotist deal.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different ways. There's a author by the name of Joe D'Souza, and he talks about like the mind and body connection and doing all of that. But again, we just don't know. Like there could have been for people who have addictions, there could have been something that happened that triggered him, and that him through that, because they're there the whole day. Throughout the day he was fine, and then somebody said something that triggered him, and then here he is. I don't think he intentionally obviously wants to put anybody in danger, and it's actually good on him. Maybe he sensed that and he's like, I'm gonna walk away. Maybe that's what all happened. But again, we won't know until he decides to talk about it, if he decides to talk about it. So
Yeah.
I think all we can do is wish him the best.
And Antonio Garcia here saying everyone has their own demons. You can't put them all in the same bucket. 100%. Headlocked heel. Trying to quit cigarettes. It's hard for me. Yeah, it's hard. DM me. I'll tell you how I went about it. I don't really want to get into it on the air, but I support you, man. Cigarettes are gross.
Yeah, and they could be also talk about perfect Q. He says he keeps saying TK, and all I hear is, it's so funny because on Twitter, I for just recently, maybe the last 3 weeks, I see TK and I'm like, what am I doing? And then I realize they're talking about Tony Khan. So I feel, I feel like I've been bumped, but I mean, I don't own a promotion, so I get it. But yeah, it does. Like when people say that in interviews and stuff, sometimes I think of myself like, what? I didn't interview or talk about anybody. So I get it.
It feels like it's setting up, I don't want to say confrontation, but at least an introduction at some point, right? He's here. Who's the other TK?
I'm saying, I agree. We have a lot to talk about, especially about women's wrestling. So hopefully that will come to fruition in 2022.
All right. Well, I see a lot of comments here about Ring of Honor. We got a couple AEW notes to get through. Then we're going to hear from Matt Taven from Ring of Honor if you're an audio format. And then we're all going to dive into the mailbag. We'll talk all about Ring of Honor. But here's the AEW stuff. Sad news here about Chris Jericho. His band Fozzy, currently on their 12-date Save the World tour of the UK, was scheduled for a show on Friday night at the Swansea Sin City venue in Swansea, Wales. The show has been nixed due to Jericho having been hospitalized due to a non-COVID-19 health issue that can be treated. The venue posted a message from the band that they received at 9 p.m. local time last evening, which would have been 4 p.m. Eastern. The message from Fozzy read like this. Chris was checked into a hospital by doctors with a non-COVID-related treatable health issue. Regrettably, the show on Friday is canceled. All tickets will be refunded. We'll have updates on Saturday's show in Nottingham and Sunday's show in London. Jericho touched base with the Observer sometime in the hours since, saying, I'm feeling good. They just wanted to observe me overnight, and I'm in the right place, not COVID related. Anything you want to say about this kind of
It's crazy in the society that we're in, where it's like you go into a store and you cough and you're like, you don't want people looking at you because they think you have COVID. It's the fact that he's stressing that is, I mean, something that he has to do. And usually, again, not a doctor, just allegedly. Usually, when artists are going to the hospital, it's because they just are overworked and
Yep.
dehydrated.
I
And
thought
so,
dehydration too. I
yeah,
immediately dehydration.
so
Yeah.
that's a possibility. I think if there was anything worse, then he wouldn't be performing this weekend. So
Hey.
yeah, hopefully everything is okay. And if it is dehydration, then get your fluids and get some rest, which is hard to do when you're on the road like that.
Jack Daniels is not a great fluid if you're trying to stay hydrated. Just for what
That
it's
part.
worth, if you're running a marathon and taking shots of Jack, you're probably gonna have a heart attack. That's all I'm
Yeah,
saying. So,
no bueno.
lastly here, Anthony Bowens shared the following on Twitter yesterday in regards to a fan yelling a homophobic slur at him. This was caught on live TV. It was terrible. It was during the 8-man tag match. Fan just yelled it at him as he's wrestling in the ring. He says, "This is why I posted that photo the other day," alluding to the photo with his boyfriend where they were kissing in front of the Westboro Baptist crazies. Stuff like this, unfortunately, still exists, not phased. I'll just keep fighting against stuff like this till the day I die. What do you think, TK?
I mean, people are going to say stupid things. And unfortunately, fortunately with social media and stuff like that, fortunately, unfortunately, your world can be opened up more. So you now are aware of everything else. And unfortunately, depending on who you follow and all this other stuff, your world could be even, it could be closed to the point where, to you in your mind, that's okay to say in a public venue. And then to even go deeper than that, why are you even saying that? What is your problem for you to like? It's just there's so many layers to it. And I think
That's
now we're in a What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, yeah, that's the problem. It's like I think about like how did he feel comfortable in that space to say it? Like how did he as a person feel comfortable to say that? Because
Hmm.
I can tell you, if somebody had done that here in Chicago, probably would not have been a great night for that person. I would not have wanted to be that guy in that section. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, or Los Angeles too. Los Angeles would have had some issues. But again, it just depends on who you hang around, who your friends are, who you follow. Like there's news outlets now that you can just follow that and your mindset will stay the same. So it's unfortunate, but again, now we're in a society where you don't have to be in the closet. You can now post a picture of you and your boyfriend and feel comfortable in doing it. And for instead of having 100% backlash, you might have 1 or 2%, which is a better place. It's not the best, but it's a better place than where we were 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, it's waves, strides, right?
Yes,
Grains
baby
of sand.
steps.
Baby steps. All right. Well, TK, I want to thank you so much for joining me at the top of the show, talk all the news today. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We're not done yet. We still got the mailbag here about to talk about Ring of Honor. And of course, I want to thank Ring of Honor and Matt Taven for that time. Great interview. It's going to premiere over on our YouTube channel about 6 minutes. So after you're done here, jump on over there. Keep your Wrestling Inc. daily experience going on. But the full thing in audio form is over on the podcast channels. Like always, you can check it out there. So today's poll question comes to us from @Wink Daily, WINC Daily over on Twitter. That's always the account to go to vote in the daily polls. Today's question stems from the fact that Jay Lethal is going to be stepping in to face Jonathan Gresham at Ring of Honor Final Battle. TK, the other TK, Tony Khan, told the Wrestling Observer earlier today he was going to do the right thing. He's going to give Ring of Honor some help this weekend. And so Lethal stepping in to substitute for Bandito. I mean, I'm happy, but it does feel like a little, I don't know. Are you a little let down? Like the tease, and now it's just Jay Gresham. I thought Brian or Punk. I really did.
So I can't speak for Tony Khan, but given the what he's presenting to social media, he doesn't need ROH or Impact, and it's kind of like that person who gives to charity, but they don't necessarily give with the purest intentions. Again, allegedly. But it's just kind of like, oh, I'm gonna do this, but I'm not gonna give you, like, you might be a millionaire, and instead of giving somebody $100, you might give them $1. It's like, okay, well, I did my part. I gave them some money. That's kind of how I feel, Tony Khan operates, which is kind of like, I'll do my part, but you need me more than I need you. So this is just a
Yeah,
show of,
and
you know.
and again, I don't want to negate Tony probably what genuinely wanting to help out Ring of Honor. It seems like Tony's trying to make good with all the people he pissed off. Maybe starting AEW, right? Like going
Mhm.
back to New Japan, really, really making that thing work. Now Ring of Honor, sorry, we took your top stars, and now you're going to go on this long hiatus. Maybe there's a bit of that goodwill going on. But at the same time, like, I'm pretty certain that Ring of Honor, there's some portion of Ring of Honor, if not all of Ring of Honor, that is for sale at the moment. And if Tony Khan is looking to get that WrestleMania 1, that all-in footage that is technically not
Mhm.
an AEW show, if he's looking
Mm.
to maybe expand his AEW streaming services archives to provide Ring of Honor content with all of the AEW stars on it, I mean, there is value to a Ring of Honor for Tony. Now, how much value, that's up for debate, but him doing this and working with Ring of Honor management and setting a nice tone while maybe those talks are going on, you
Mhm.
know, not a bad deal. And again,
Yeah.
it's a game, it's a business. I think there's a bit of what I just said maybe involved in what's going on here.
Yeah, it makes sense. Money is money and content is content. So, AEW Ring of Honor has been around a lot longer. So now that they have more content on their platforms, you're going to go and watch. So it makes sense, and it's better to be slightly hated than hated all the way. Like, because if you're slightly hated, then people are still going to work with you. It's like, oh, well, yeah, he's an a-hole, but, he at least did us this solid. And, just like any empire, there's ups and downs. And we don't know what's going to happen in the next 5 years with, AEW. Like, we just don't know the way society is set up now. I mean, that's a whole nother conversation, but we just don't know. So it just makes more sense to, you know, give a little something, just to save face.
Yeah, and Esteban Swan Esquire saying Tony is the boss. He does favors for you. You better bring something of worth back to him. It's just street rules, right? I'll give you this street value. You got to pay me back with a little bit more interest than maybe a legitimate bank, right? This
There
is
you
not a
go. Yep.
not a bank loan. This is a loan between two individuals. So I asked everybody, when you think of Ring of Honor, what comes to mind? Who comes to mind? About 200 votes here. 36.3% Brian Danielson, 35 Samoa Joe, 24.7 Jay Lethal, 8.4 everybody else. All these names from Briscoe to Nigel to Steen, AJ Styles, more Briscoes, a lot of Briscoes. Who do you think of when you think of Ring of Honor? TK?
Um, excuse me, Jay Lethal for sure. And then, of course, in the vein of women's wrestling, Roxy with her, they had just such a great women's championship this past summer. And I'm really sad that they can't continue it at the moment. We don't know what's going to happen for next year. But I really like that they were on board of the whole, like, they showcasing women. So I really like that part. So yeah, I think Ring of Honor has been, I almost say, on par with Impact. There was a lot of talent that kind of went through those doors. So I'm really sad that it's closing, but they made it seem like they're just reorganizing some stuff. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens for sure. I think it's just maybe because of like all the historic matches and stuff. I think Brian Danielson maybe was like my peak. Brian Danielson, Samoa Joe, those are the two I put up top. But I think you're onto something with Roxy. We talk about like how a Briscoes or a PCO will wind up in AEW, and there's a good possibility. But I think of the women, Roxy for sure will
Mhm.
definitely get a shot in AEW. I think they'd be foolish not to. She's only like, what, 19, 20 years old? Something like
Yeah,
that?
she's very young. Yeah, she's very young.
Stupid young. Yeah, that'll be a rate. I mean, WWE might even pick her up, honestly. There's very few talents on the market right now where I'm like, you know, they might, but I think WWE might take her on for sure.
Well, also too, I have to. It seems like even within the last 5 years, that for the indie scene, like you can make a really good amount of money. Like I believe she's been on Mission Pro, but don't quote me on that. But you can make a good amount of money on the indie scene. I'm speaking more for women. There's a lot of women promotions on the indie scene that you still get your, you still you work 2-3 days and you still kind of can train and you can be home. You're not on these crazy runs, and you could still be the artist versus going somewhere that they pretty much strip you of, whatever it is, and then they say, okay, you're this. And it works for some people and some people it doesn't. So I think we have to appreciate WWE and the other promotions for what they are, but then also really appreciate the indie scene, because you can make a great, and I let me know if you're on the indie scenes if I'm incorrect, but from the folks that I know who've been on the indie scenes, it seems like they're doing pretty well. I'm not in their bank accounts, but it seems like they're
it depends on the talent, right? There's a lot of people on the indies that are doing very well right now. And I think there's a particular model you can look at. I think right now on the indies, it helps to have like some kind of marketable little gimmick or something that you can parlay
social
media into a shirt. But for a lot of people, like that's either not they don't like that model, or they want to do something different. And it's still, it's a huge struggle, and especially for people that are used to making like a lot more money. The grind becomes way, way higher. And like the style of like your life just changes, so
it does. But just to be devil's advocate, so now you get with WWE and then they decide they don't want you and you don't have a backup plan as far as a brand. Like I've talked to some people that I know in WWE that don't have, they don't have the secondary business. And I'm like,
yeah,
but this is what you should be doing. And that's just my opinion. But then I also know people who do, and they have several things going on. And it's just like, if WWE were like, you're gone tomorrow, you're not going to be like, oh, I need to scramble. You can just do stuff on your own terms. So I think no matter what, whether it is with WWE or on the indie scene, this type of work I'll just across the board say media, you have to have some type of other stream of income coming in, because you just don't know. So I think it's gonna be a grind either way. So yeah.
Yeah, well, that is a great way to end this week. Reminding everybody that the grind should never stop. You should always have a side hustle and, be living your life in a way where you don't feel like you are completely in control by your boss, right? That's like an ideal situation. I want to thank you again, TK. Y'all, this weekend is going to be a big weekend. Lots of things going on. We're going to have, of course, Ring of Honor Final Battle coverage on the site. So come back, make us your site for your ROH Final Battle coverage. I think I'll have a special ROH guest on Monday, knock on wood, to kind of reflect on the pay-per-view, which will be interesting. And this weekend as well, on Saturday, I'll be at C2E2, 12:30, hosting the Headlock Comic panel. We're going to have Matt Cardona, and then Jerry Lawler cannot appear due to some scheduling issue now, but other famous wrestler will be there, to be determined. So we'll figure that out. Sunday, I'm going to do commentary for Warrior Wrestling. If you want to check that out, it's going to be over on Fight.tv, the main event of Will Ospreay versus Trey Miguel versus Blake Christian. Very exciting. And of course, supportwrestlingnick.com, where all the socials and the Wrestling podcast will be live tonight after SmackDown. TK, what do you want to plug, promote, or put over to wrap up the show today?
Oh my gosh. Speaking of SmackDown, I forgot to tell you about this. We did a really encouraging letter to Naomi. It's on the www.talkpod.com site. It's also on our social media as well. I'm really hoping that she slaps the S out of Sonya Deville today. I don't think it's going to happen because they're really getting us in our emotions. So we have that on our social, and then we also have a top 5 moments for Naomi there as well. So definitely go and check that out. We also have a shirt, We Ride for Naomi. So go and check that out, because I'm just waiting for Naomi to give us the, like, let's go, Calvary. because this is getting ridiculous. So yeah, you can check out all of that at www.talkpod.com or on our social media at www.talkpod. Yeah, and other than that, yeah, just you can follow me on everything at TK Trinidad if you want body butters or candles. I also do that too. You can just Google me.
I like all those things. I bought a candle yesterday, TK. It smells of black cherries. My girlfriend was scared the whole place was going to smell like cough syrup. But to her chagrin, the home smells great. We're going to have an awesome weekend, everybody. I am at Nick_Hausman over on Twitter. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm going to talk to you on Monday. And remember, if you winked, you didn't miss it.